here at micebook EXPO. I'm here with Gavin Farley from asembl.group. We've just come off agency landscape panel session.
An amazing panel.
Thank you. With you on the panel.
Absolutely.
We debated small versus large, independent versus network. What stood out to you most in that discussion, do you think?
Just how much the asembl.group is doing the right thing. If I'm honest, it was really interesting listening to, the likes of the independents and Amex all talking about how they flex and who they are and what they do. And then I was sitting there thinking, this is exactly the reason why the model was built, because it can go up, it can go down, they can be independent, we can be group. And I just thought, it reassured me that we're doing the right thing.
So where do you sit within the market? Can you talk a little bit more about what asembl.group is?
Yeah, so we set out from the beginning, when we created it, we set out to be top of the middle, I think, is where we positioned. You've got the GPJs and the Jack Mawsons and so on. Amexes never want to be kind of that sort of company, but there's a lot of business in the mid-market. So if we can be top of the mid-market and represent really well in that space, I think that's where we've always aimed to be. And if that means we then start competing with those boys at the top, and so be it. But what it means is that we're losing the stuff down the bottom. So I definitely see that sort of mid-market. We can work with global brands. We can still be agile. We still got the flexibility. We can scale up and down. We can get the procurement. We can tick all those boxes. So that's definitely where we sit, is top of that middle. It's a bit of a disruptor.
Yeah, so you've got 9 agencies within the group at the moment.
Yeah.
So are there plans to expand that into any particular sector or?
Sector, so I think the way to look at it is, this is how I've always looked at it, is if a client or corporate spoke to somebody from asembl.group and they said, this is what we want to do as an activation, a global series, who in the supply chain is it that they're using? So how much of that can we bring in group? How much of that can we control? So I think when there are gaps, and what happens is the more times I hear, we're using, or we're dealing this, or we're having to use this, that's when the conversations start to happen. So it's built out of demand.
Yeah.
But again, it's just what gaps are there that we're within the ecosystem, and we are looking. We do consistently look for the right pump members, acquisitions, and so on. And it's not necessarily sort of sector or market; it's regions as well. What does that mean for our growth? Where are our clients? Where are they distributed around the world? What can we do to facilitate giving a better experience to our clients? That's what it's always all about.
Yeah. And can you share an example where the asembl model delivered something maybe that a traditional larger agency or smaller agency couldn't? I mean, do you find clients coming to you for the whole gamut of services?
Yeah, we've got a big event actually in March, so I can't say too much about it now, but it's a big event in March, and it's over in Germany, and they historically had used one agency. And the event had grown. It was growing up to sort of 4,000 people. They're bringing in a lot more. They wanted to be a lot more creative and different with their approach. They moved venues outside of a hotel into a dry hire. And we had the opportunity to pitch for it. They were actually really concerned about giving it to one agency because, putting all your eggs in one basket and the risks. And where we went in is, our 3 values in the group are trust, transparency, and togetherness. So we go in with the brands within the group. We're very open about who they are and what they do and their specialities. We pitched as one, so all of the experts went in together. We pitched as one, unified by the group. We gave the client one contact, one solution effectively in the middle. They could either give us one PO and we distribute, or they can build the others individually. So what we demonstrated to them was, and we did win it, so that was great. What we demonstrated to them was the versatility of the group. We mitigated any risk that they had going, we're giving all of the work to one company. But yet everyone's coming together, and that event's coming up, and it's working really well. And that's everything from creative, content, AV, venues, travel, on site, etc. So full management. So that's what we call, our aim is to speak to clients to get a multifaceted event where we can plug all of the elements in the group and give them that single point of contact, that single solution. So, it does work.
Yeah.
But not always.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work, like, doesn't always need, well, it does always work, but it doesn't always work with the need to use everyone. There's a lot of stuff where, we just go, just use them, just speak to them, but we're more than happy just to give them, the members that work direct. You don't need to put layers of management on it. You don't need to put, you don't need to pretend to be something you're not.
As the group grows, how do you then protect, I guess, that group culture, but then the individual agency identities as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's important. Culture's massive for us. I think we've worked really hard, creating assemblers. What does it mean to be working with us? I think if you meet anyone who works for Assemble, they work for Assemble. I think they are a certain type of person, and that's what we really look for. Part of the hiring and the sort of the onboarding phase is very much making them feel, that they are one of us and that they're in. Let people do their thing their own way, but with the guidance of some rules behind them. But we don't want to lose their sort of individuality, which I think assemblers definitely are. Probably my fault. Don't follow the script all the time, right? So I think that's what we want with them. And then when it comes to the members, again, the choice to bring those members on is not, we're inundated, and that's a nice position to be in, of people saying, I want to be part of this. And not everybody can be. We're very particular about who we bring in, the criteria that people come in. We need to go into their business. We need to understand their people, their culture, to see if that aligns. And then unifying that as we grow, we have every quarter, and we have very creatively named assemblies where we bring the senior team and the management team together. We've got internal incentives and staff recognition that we do as a group, as one. We have a big end of year event called the asembl, which is nice. So we're very aware that is important. That it's not just the business owners or the senior team telling that story. Everyone in the companies within the group have to sort of, they're the ones that need to tell the story more so than us, because we know what's going on.
So you've been building a little bit of our army of talent recently within Assemble. I mean, obviously you've had Penny Noble and some of the senior Noble team join you. You had Debs Croswell join you just before Christmas. What's the sort of aim behind these kind of senior hires, and sort of how does that fit with the growth plans?
Yeah, I think it's, I think some of the, Zoe, who's head of agency, I think it took about 4 years of persuasion for her to come in. And actually on hiring Zoe, for example, we didn't have a role for her, but it was just, we knew that she was the right person to fit somewhere within the organisation. And I think that's kind of where we look at it. It's not necessarily we need someone to do a job. We try, especially this sort of senior element, we really look at who's going to add skills, who would fit in with the team. So it's definitely part of like the growth strategy. And I think maybe before these, key hires, if you like to call them, probably we weren't ready for them. I think now it's nice that we're getting attention and people are coming to us to go, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
We want to be part of this. We've stayed in our organisation for ages. We didn't want to just walk in saying, oh, so this is something. But I sort of refer to what we do as a bit of a roller coaster, right? It's sort of learning as we're going. The scale is fast. There's going to be highs and lows, but ultimately we know that end result. And if you get the right people who are generally sort of senior, who've been around, they can ride that.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. We need to have, just if you put the right people in the right room with the right ambition, I suppose, and attitude, that builds growth. And I think it's momentum. It's all about momentum. And I think that's what we've got at Assemble at the moment, is that momentum.
I think it's confidence as well, isn't it? Taking people on when you don't specifically go, we're not quite sure where we're going to fit, but we just know they're the right person to help us grow.
I mean, it's affordability as well. These guys cost,
it's a big investment,
it's an investment, right? So I think you've got to have that runway. We haven't outsourced, we're not having to have any outsourced money. Everything is sort of, bootstrapped, if you like, and it's sort of self-funded currently through the group. So you have to be sure, or as sure as you can be, I suppose, on these hires. It is confidence.
And if clients had to sum you up in 3 words, what would it be?
Pretty fucking cool.
I love it.
Don't know, but I don't know. I mean, look, I think actually I do believe that, but I just think it's like, we're really nice to work with. We know what we're doing, and I think the values of the group are trust, transparency, and togetherness. And that was curated, 18 months ago, 2 years ago, when we all sat around the table and we wanted to know, like, what are our values of the group, and I think that's who we are. I think you can trust us. We're very transparent. We're all together, and that comes across as a group, and it comes across with the individuals, and hopefully to the clients as well.
Yeah. And you're not shy about calling things out. So what's one assumption about our industry that you think's fundamentally wrong right now?
I don't know. I don't know if there's a lot. I mean, the same stuff that's been going on for years. I think I think why I look at it is, I'm not sure if people are really thinking about where the market's going. I don't know if people are thinking enough around the next generation that's coming through. And I think people could get caught out if they're not careful. We've got a whole generation coming through with a 30-second attention span, and I'm not sure that a lot of people. And I think I don't know if it's wrong. I think we're thinking about it, so I'm happy with that. And I don't think all this mergers and acquisition stuff, that's gone on forever. It's nothing new there. I don't know. Nothing really that annoys me that I want to say.
And lastly, is there a book or a podcast or a person that's like shaped your thinking or inspired you recently?
Love micebook. Love reading micebook. I listen to loads. I pick. I sort of like, and it's topics more than a person. So I think various podcasts, depending on what they're talking about, and books. I really do try and read them, but not getting round to it. I've got a pile sort of like this in my office that I meant to everyone says, you should read this book, you'll love it. And I go to do it and I don't do it. But podcasts and so on, there's quite a lot out there. And again, I just think it's what you're interested in. I think it's I wouldn't pick a person that I idolise to listen to. I think there's few. I learn all the time, you know what I mean? I think it's important to listen to lots of people, and I like to sort of soak it all up and then form an opinion on that.
Well, thank you so much, Gav.
Thanks, Susan.
Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Nice.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.